Hi, this is Custom Works. I'm Clint Allen, and today we're going to talk about 3 gauges that you need to have in your 7.3 Powerstroke. Stick around. Well, thanks for sticking around through that. The first gauge that I want you to get and put into your truck, and this is the first one that you should get, the most important one, forget about the turbo gauge. Forget about the turbo gauge. It's only there for humor, is a pyrometer. A pyrometer basically is going to tell you the exhaust temperature that you are putting out as you're driving down the road, and it is better known as EGT, exhaust gas temperature. And this is a killer, the worst thing you can do to a diesel motor. And EGTs can reach over 2,000 degrees if you're doing heavy towing. And if you leave it unchecked, you will ruin your 7.3. You're going to be melting pistons, warping heads, unseating valves, screwing up the valve guides, and decimating your turbo, and a lot more. It's a bad idea. Melting point of most engine parts actually start at 1,220 degrees. Now, even though the 7.3 can handle high EGTs for long periods of time because it's high-grade cast iron, and the pistons themselves are also an extremely high-grade aluminum. But even at that, having a pyrometer in your 7.3 can feed back multitudes of information to you. Air to fuel unbalance, a turbo going bad, an overused air filter, poor fuel, clogged fuel filters. Now, normal operating for a 7.3 at idle, depending on the time of the year, is going to be about 50 degrees to 225 degrees. Underneath normal driving operation, you're going to see your gauge in the 300 to 475 area. Normal towing, light towing, you're going to see about 425 to 800 degrees, and that's going up an incline. Heavy towing, let's say 9,000 pounds and over, it's going to be around 475 to 1,000, and that 1,000 is going to be a very short duration. Now, if you're really hauling heavy and you're going up steep inclines, and you're doing this regularly, and you're running about 1,000 to the 1,200 degree range, you need to practice the foot off the pedal going downhill and give that girl a break. If you're going to be beyond that range constantly for hours, you're just going to shorten the life of components in the vehicle, and you're going to end up having to replace turbos and everything that I previously had stated. It's just not good for the motor. So there's a multitude of other small items, but we don't need to get into that. I've hit down on the major items here. So the next gauge that I think that you should have is an electrical gauge. Now, where do you hook up this electrical gauge? I want you to hook it up to the lead to the cigarette lighter. This is going to give you a true reading of what is happening in your electrical system, your entire electrical system, right off of that cigarette lighter lead. Now, except for on startup, because when you start up a 7.3, the glow plug is going to, with the alternator and with the computer, it's just going to read out 12 volts until it realizes that the glow plugs are no longer lit and needed. And that's when you're going to come back up to normal voltage. So the normal voltage that you should be getting, and this is on the average because gauges sometimes are just a little bit off again, 0.2, 0.3. But you should be at 14.3 to 13.8 with that voltage gauge. Anything outside that range is going to show you issues, whether it's a weak battery, bad connections, failing electrical fan for your heater, and on and on and on. If you're constantly running below, let's say 13.2, there's an issue somewhere in your electrical system, and or you've got that bad boy really taxed, and what you need to do is probably upgrade your alternator or batteries, whatever the case may be, if not both. But either which way, that is the range that you should be in. It is very critical on a 7.3 that the PCM, ECM, the ICM is all getting proper voltage and amperages, otherwise it will have runnability issues. Now the next gauge that you should have is a oil pressure gauge, and I want that oil pressure gauge to be hooked up to the high pressure oil tank reserve tank. Now this is going to let you know that you have overheated oil, you have weak oil, failing low pressure oil pump, failing high pressure oil pump, oil filter flow, or you're getting clogged in the oil filter, you have failing seals, failing injectors, failing turbo bearings. That is the feedback it's going to get, because you're going to see what it normally is, and if you start seeing the gauge drop as the vehicle gets older or overuse, then you're going to start seeing, oh, well, okay, you know, right there. You don't have to wait to be sitting on the side of the road with a injector seal that has gone out. You'll know in advance, and you'll be able to go in there, and even though it's not as easy as plugging something in to your computer and getting a code from it, at least you have a heads up, and you're not going to be sitting on the side of the road, and you can easily figure out, ooh, well, these are the general problems, and you can get on top of it, get something ordered, and not be under pressure that, ooh, well, geez, I've got to be to work tomorrow, and now I have to pull out some injector that I don't know which injector, or whatever the case may be. So I'm sure somewhere down along the line, we're going to have a whole bunch of comments that are going to go, oh, well, you know, what do you think for gauges? Well, I'm going to throw out my opinion on this based on years of having certain gauges in my vehicles. So all my 7.3 trucks have glow shift gauges. Why do I use glow shift gauges? Well, number one, I've never had one fail, but they come in a multitude of choosable colors. So I like to be driving, and I like my gauge to be red. It doesn't bother me. It might bother you, doesn't bother me. That's my favorite color on my gauge. That doesn't bother me going down the road. There's like 7 or 9 colors on these gauges that you can choose, and I think that helps in your eyes, especially at night. So that's why I choose those. Now, on the pull trucks, those right there, we use Actron Bosch gauges. Those are all used during the day. Never had one fail. Pretty nice gauges there. You know, you can get them in the old classic style. They're kind of nifty that way. The next ones that I have in other vehicles are AEMs. Once again, never had one fail. Their readouts are really, really good. So that's my opinion of the ones that I have and the ones that I use. So I hope you've learned something today, and you take it easy, and you have a good day.